Ghost Nappa, Team 3-star, Dodge Super Saiyan, Little Green Sensu Bean, and Pobo's training. Year-long hiatuses passing like dreams. And these are just a few of my favorite things, let me tell you. Oh, Team 4-star, you brilliant bastards. Where do I even begin with you? Well, a lot of you might not remember this, but way back in 2006 when Martin Bellany, aka Lil Karibo, pioneered the Abridged series format with... Wait, 2006? What is it? 1 second. 12 years ago? I was in 10th grade. I'm hideously old. Anyway, with the start of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, fans, casual and hardcore alike, unanimously praised the content as pretty damn good. And thus, a new genre of internet video was born! Using their awesome nerd-like powers, Kaiser, Taka, and Lani have dedicated their lives to... well, not as of yet, but they will... Anyway. If you were online in the mid to late 2000s, you'd probably remember that everyone and their body pillows were trying their hand at this new format. I'm telling you, it was a Abridged series out the ass. But today we're taking a look at the best of the best, a certain Abridged series you may have heard of. Now, before I go any further, let me just hit you with a quick disclaimer for you to ignore while ripping me apart in the comments section for not including your favorite episode. Like with all my top 10 lists, this is based entirely on objective facts, and are all calculated attacks on your own personal tastes, values, and family. Disagreement on any front only serves to make me more powerful. And if you do disagree, fuck you, fight me. I'm totally not Mark, and these are the top 10 episodes of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Oh, and before you try and guess, the number 1 spot's not going to be episode 60. Honestly, how predictable do you think I am? I'm offended. Hurt even. Oh, and it's also worth noting that this list will not be including movies, specials, or musicals, I guess. So it's only episodes 1 through 60 I'll be taking into consideration. And once again, let me be absolutely clear that episode 60 is not taking the top spot, okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's get down to business.
To control the world.
Number 10. As I said earlier, when Dragon Ball Z Abridged first started, it did so among a sea of other fans trying to capture that lightning in a bottle that Lil Karibo had let loose. And while it was definitely one of the better renditions, DBZA still suffered from poorly written non sequiturs with a general lack of experience and polish. But then again, it was 2008, and so did everything else on the internet. However, it was the insufferably quotable Nappa who set the show apart from its competition. It was less of a Dragon Ball Z parody and more the wacky Nappa variety show, for a while at least anyway. And so, in the episode prior, when the time came for Nappa to be retired, many fans, myself included, suspected the show was doomed to fizzle out into obscurity. Enter stage right? Episode 10. Oh man, we could not have been more wrong. The show came back in full force with this epic 3-part finale to season 1. Whereas previously his role was primarily to play the straight man to Nappa's funny man, Vegeta more than picks up his slack left behind tragically by his murdered partner. Episode 10, in my view, was truly the make or break episode for the entire series. And looking at the following 9 years of DBZA, yeah, I'm gonna chalk that one down to a make moment. It's episode 10's success in cementing Dragon Ball Z Abridged as a force to be reckoned with that earns its number 10 spot. Number 9. The Siege of Leningrad, 1941 to 1944. The 100 Days Offense, 1918. Operation Barbossa, 1941. These are some of the most egregious stains mankind has left in the fabric of history. Senseless violence in the name of power and greed. All but a glimpse into the cruel nature of this, our human condition. And yet, all pale in comparison to the carnage, the cruelty, the bloodlust that is Namekamania! I love wrestling, I love Dragon Ball Z, so what's not to love about episode 20? It's a silly, action-packed romp framed as a bombastic parody of WrestleMania, complete with the snappy commentary of Jason Berner to tie it all together. The whole thing is just peak Ginyu Force, and it's one of the episodes I find myself coming back to time and time again. Also, DBZA's rendition of Raccoon may be the greatest character in all of fiction, just throwing that out there.
Raccoon agrees.
Number 8. Okay, this episode is a perfect example of how creative the Team 4-star guys really are. And I think a lot of us rolled our eyes when we saw the thumbnail for this one originally, suggesting that we'd have to sit through the Gallic JR arc, only for them to not just flip the script, but throw it out entirely and write a whole damn new one. The Gallic JR saga's plot can be summed up in a few lines, but somehow the guys at Toei managed to stretch that to a snappy 11 episodes. Even thinking about it gives me cold sweats. I expected the abridged version to be at least 2 episodes, but instead we thankfully got this super weird original story about Krillin's insurance fraud and his relationship with the gold-digging undercover cop Not Bulma. It's just no strings attached, good quality sitcom writing, and it caught everyone off guard. It's sort of like if Seinfeld had an abridged series. Holy shit. Someone, make Seinfeld the abridged series. I think that's the best worst idea I've ever had. Oh, and before I forget, quick shout out to Mr. Popo for dealing with the Gallic JR baggage in the swiftest way imaginable. Popo? Oh, Mr. Popo, you're incorrigible. Number 7. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the one, the only, Perfect Cell.
Mr. Perfect Cell.
Right, Mr. Perfect Cell. This episode does a great job of demonstrating just how powerful our handsome villain is. Not only do we get to see a final flash from Vegeta that rivals even that of the original, but Krillin also gets a chance to demonstrate his own finishing attack. Speaking of Pokemon, I wonder if Vegeta has a favorite game. Hey Vegeta, what's your favorite Pokemon game?
Crystal.
Alright dude, Jesus. With an over-the-top arrogance that puts even Vegeta to shame, Mr. Perfect Cell proves here that the only thing more deadly than his raw power would be his razor-sharp jawline. I mean, wit. His razor-sharp wit. Why would I say jawline? Number 6.
Oh my god, it's Tien! What, was Krillin busy?
Ten Shinhan has had a difficult relationship to say the least with the story of Dragon Ball. It's been up, down, and down time and time again for the former Crane School alumni. So, with Semi-Perfect Cell having just eaten his brother, and is about to work through a mean case of middle form syndrome by eating his sister, Ten Shinhan's nick of time arrival is a fan favorite moment both in Dragon Ball Z and the abridged series. With high stakes and a low chance of success, Cell mocks our three-eyed shoulder enthusiast for even showing his face. And that's when Tien utters those words I say to myself every time I read the comments section in any of my Power Level series videos.
Yeah? Well, you know what? Power levels! Super Saiyans! And you!
This is a perfect example of Team 4-Star understanding when to let the jokes take a backseat and play it straight. The episode is hilarious, don't get me wrong, but this scene, in a comedy abridged series nonetheless, always gives me goosebumps. And that's reason enough for it to take the number 6 spot. And if you disagree, as Tin Shinhan would say,
Kiko, yourself.
Since we're at the halfway point, I feel like now is a suitable time to remind you that episode 60 is not going to be the number 1, okay? In fact, it won't feature anywhere on this list, especially not the first place, okay? Cool, just making sure we're on the same page here. Number 5.
Did you just talk out your ass?
Well, to be fair, Vegeta, you are part of my DNA.
Ooh, that is the closest thing you've done to damage since I've gotten here.
This episode is comedy gold, largely in part to the overzealous Prince of All Saiyans just brutalizing Cell with his signature arrogant attitude. Oh, and his fists. He also uses his fists. See how often Dragon Ball sees Vegeta playing second fiddle to Goku? It's always great to see him take the spotlight and really save the day. You know, until he fucks it up.
Go on.
Semi-Perfect Cell gets a few good lines in, and there are some really nice moments between Gohan and Goku inside the hypersonic lion tamer.
That's what makes it hypersonic, Gohan.
But once again, Vegeta manages to steal the show with his general combat banter. I also want to take this opportunity to draw attention to how fucking fantastic Nick Landis is as Vegeta. And it's especially evident in this scene.
But I'm warning you, if you waste it... You're gonna regret it.
Number 4. Remember what I said about episode 31? And how the folks at Team 4-Star threw out the script and wrote their own wacky, zany adventure? Well, this is like the opposite of that. They don't scrap the original script, they build it into a fucking 16-story tall mech and use it to punch you right in the feelings. Now, this isn't the first time DBZA has played a scene straight for dramatic purposes, but it is the first time they animated an entirely new scene from scratch just to add depth and context to its characters. And the episode itself is funny, there's plenty of great jokes in here. We got Mr. Perfect Cell here, my boy Little Green is back. But come on. We all know why this episode is special. Jesus guys, you could at least tell me I'm pretty before you fuck me like that. You can hear Kid Goku in the background as he attacks the base 2 before the video cuts out, which means this all takes place in the Red Ribbon Army arc of Dragon Ball. It's fucking wild. It's like they're writing the show from scratch, armed with the knowledge only 30 years of hindsight can bring. Not only is episode 56 a fantastic example of Team 4-Star showing off both their comedic and dramatic writing chops, but the inclusion of Android 16's expanded backstory alone really stands to illustrate that sometimes the fans can understand what a project needs more than the professionals. For any video game nerds out there, Dragon Ball GT is Sonic Boom and DBZA is Sonic Mania. Next, number 3. Racking up a cool 10 million views, with only half of those being mine, it's clear to see that this one is a favorite among the fan base too. What can I say? I like Super Saiyan Vegeta, get off my back. Vegeta swoops in with a vengeance to dominate this episode, as well as 19. With big moments, hilarious one-liners, and a level of hubris we haven't seen since Namek. The Saiyan Prince has finally gone full Slim Shady and is more than eager to show off his new form. This episode serves as a vessel for Vegeta to affirm himself as not only one of the funniest characters on the show, but as a pure, unadulterated badass. 19's self-destruct sequence is one of the best fight scenes in the series, and Dr. Giro's absolute befuddlement is almost as entertaining to watch as Android 19's introduction to the concept of fear. It just goes to show what one can accomplish with push-ups, sit-ups, and plenty of juice.
Seriously? What the f*** is Namek?
Number 2.
You think you're better than me? You're nothing but an overgrown monkey!
And you're nothing but an overgrown that thing Chi-Chi keeps in her drawer.
This episode holds a special place in my heart for a number of reasons. Lil Kuribo's interpretation of Frieza is by far my favorite in all dubbings of the show outside of Japan. Martin Bellany brings a sophistication and bratty nature to Frieza that not only works perfectly for this more comedic take, but also works incredibly well with Masako X's Goku.
Will you just piss off already?
I don't have to use the bathroom.
The quality of this show skyrocketed in the Namek saga, and episode 30 is the clearest indication of this. In truth, in terms of sheer comedy, this is the strongest episode in my view. Fantastic pacing, quippy dialogue, sizable deviations from the original version, with jokes out the wazoo. Now, before we get to the number 1 spot, which again is most definitely not episode 60, I'd like to take a few of my favorite moments from DBZA that didn't make the cut. You know, because I'm a YouTuber, and the concept of actually committing to the number 10 in a top 10 list is a foreign and terrifying concept to us. Number 1. Ha! You idiots! It was episode 60 all along! You gullible fools, it was a ruse! Hurrah to you! Yeah, okay, maybe not, but you all knew it had to be episode 60. After a year-long hiatus and announcing that this episode could potentially be the end of Dragon Ball Z Abridged's decade-long run, the internet had its eyes on Team 4-Star to see if they could deliver on what I would say was the most anticipated episode of any internet show ever. But the question is, can they stick the landing? Let's see. Here it comes. Oh my god! They did it! They fucking nailed it! What I mean to say is, everything about episode 60 was worth the wait. And a year in internet time is practically an eternity, so that's really saying something. After researching the entire series in preparation for this list, I realized that at some instance, an instance I can't quite pinpoint, Dragon Ball Z Abridged became more than just a fan-made parody. And so, while I'm sad to see it go, words really can't express just how much DBZA meant to me and millions of others around the world. I wish I had something more profound or insightful to say, but no matter how many times I've tried to write this paragraph, nothing feels right. So with nothing else to say, I have to leave you with this. Team 4-Star, sincerely thank you. I've been totally not Mark. Thank you so much for watching.